Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku, back with another fanfiction. This is the movie of What If Deku Becomes a Magic Knight. Now before starting, please give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Such a tragedy, a man said only to himself as he walked through a half-destroyed building, fire slowly taking to what was still standing. He stopped walking as he came to a body on the ground, a man with a hole in his where his heart should be, a waste of beautiful life. The man had a sorrowful look as he picked up a book that had fallen next to the man, a silver book with beautiful tracings that encircled a three-leafed clover in the middle of the cover. He watched as the pages turned to dust and the book become a lost piece of history and sighed. "I pray you have ease in the afterlife," the man said as he left the body and went farther into the building, hoping to find just one person who had been able to live past the attack. As he walked through the building, he saw more fallen people and each one left a small weight on his heart. Perhaps if he was there when the disaster struck, he could have prevented such a result. The man then questioned whether or not they were alive, or their choice of for that matter. He felt an unknown feeling as he realized he hasn't seen those two who he considered friends among the destruction of the battle. Not sure if that meant he wasn't seeing the whole area or that meant they had luckily escaped. He didn't know if the two had been able to act quick enough to protect their blessed child. He quickly ran through the building as fast as he could towards the room where their living quarters lied and felt terror as he saw the doors that had been destroyed, a hole making the new entrance. The man felt his heart stop for a second when he saw a sight he dreaded but felt was what had occurred, the sight of the royal man he had known for years dead in a pool of his own. He only wept for a moment before trying to find his late friend's wife and son, hoping that this was where the father made a last stand to buy them time. Nowhere in the area did he feel any bit of their presence, which made him believe they had died also. Extending his senses further, he felt something, a small trace of magic that was like a candle off away from where he stood. Following that trace quickly, he found another horrible sight moments later, the woman dead also, killed from what looked like an attack to her neck. The gray-haired man didn't think he could handle any other tragedy but pushed through the emotional pain to try to find what fate had taken the boy, who was most likely robbed of his life just as he turned one. He couldn't find the boy anywhere, and using his sensory ability only found a small trace of a spell leaving as soon as he looked, meaning any chance he could have gotten to find the boy was now gone, most likely stolen away by the bastards who killed those he considered his kin. The man gained a scowl, a look of anger as hatred for whoever did this, killing his blessed people, built up inside of him. He would track down everyone who did this and make them pay. But first, he must use all of his resources to find that boy and make sure he was safe. A young woman only blinked as she processed what was happening at that moment. She was going home that day and took a shortcut through the small part of the woods that separated where she worked from her home when a small whirlwind, of solid wind almost, gently placed a bundle in front of her on the ground. She didn't know where it came from, but it was obviously there because of a magic spell. She cautiously, not that she was afraid but not sure what was happening, tried to look in the basket when she heard a sound from it, a child crying. Her instincts made her forego caution as she knelt to pick up the bundle and see a small child with green hair. He was crying loudly and she tried shushing him. She didn't really know what to do since she normally never was around kids to know what to do. It's okay now." She tried rocking him. "Where did you come from?" His crying got quieter but didn't stop entirely. She put her hand against his head to check his temperature and noticed on his forehead, making her panic that he was hurt. She checked him quickly to find that he had no cuts or bruises of any kind, meaning they belonged to someone else, something that was still alarming. During her search, she found a necklace, a golden chain with a blue gem on it. The blue gem had a gold-colored cross and 4 pointed stars at each corner, making the woman wonder if it was a family heirloom, not seeing anything like it before. As she looked at the gem, a paper fell out of a fold in the blankets. She knelt to grab it with one hand and unfolded the paper to read what it said. In a hastily written fashion, it only said 3 words: "Please protect Izuku." The woman looked at the child she was holding, who wasn't crying anymore thanks to her rocking him. "Your name is Izuku," she spoke softly to keep him at ease, not wanting the child to cry anymore. "Mine's Mitsuki." She made the decision to keep that promise to the note. "I'm going to protect you, Izuku." 9 years later, a strong gust of wind flew across a field as a 10-year-old boy lied in the grass and looked up at the sky. This boy had emerald green hair that went in every direction as if it flowed with the directions of multiple winds, and equally green eyes that had a bright shine to them. On his cheeks he had 4 freckles in a diamond-like formation. He wore a pitch-black shirt with a high collar and long sleeves, light brown pants and boots of a sandy color. He had a noticeable necklace with a golden chain and a blue gem. "Izuku!" an ash blonde-haired kid shouted as he ran up the hill to the emerald kid. "Hey!" Izuku didn't really move from his spot on the ground, but he wasn't going to ignore his brother. "Hello, let's go into the forest," the spiky-haired kid suggested with enthusiasm. "Find a magic monster and beat it up." That is risky, the Emerald Kid replied with his natural detached-sounding voice, a tone that didn't bother the blonde. Yeah, but we could get magic. We both don't show traces of mana on a level of being able to use magic. Yeah, but the teachers also say that magic sometimes takes time to surface in people and that we can be 12 before it is clear if we have magic. We are 10 so we can have hidden magic, so let's go uncover it. I don't think it would work if we did that. Magic needs mana. We might have hidden mana, Katsuki offered. We can't hide mana. Well, we definitely have magic so nothing bad can happen. Plus I have explosions so no issue. The blonde held up a hand and made a few small explosions pop in his palm. Well, what does Izuku have? A woman asked. He doesn't. Katsuki stopped when he realized who was asking the question. He turned and looked at his mother, who had similar but feminine features akin to her son, from ashy blonde spiky hair to her crimson eyes. Her eyes were currently locked onto her son with a hard look. Right. He doesn't have a quirk so he couldn't defend himself like you. She had her arms crossed. I thought I said to stop trying to enter the forest, Katsuki. Little kids won't last in the forest because of the magic beasts out there. They aren't scary. They aren't scary because you are dense. The woman fed her son on the nose. Can't you be smart like Izuku? He was going to go also, Katsuki responded. I didn't hear him agree. I was going to, Izuku admitted. At least you are honest. She pat the emerald boy on the head. We would have been fine. Katsuki grumbled. Not with those magic beasts out there, you twerp, Mitsuki stated. I have explosion, Katsuki argued as he made little explosions go off with the mention of his quirk. The teachers at school say quirks can beat magic beasts. Katsuki, there is a difference between a dense kid and a trained person using a quirk on a magic beast, the blonde woman said flatly. Who are you calling dense? Mitsuki ignored her son and fed him on the nose again while looking at Izuku. Anyways, you two don't stay out here too much longer. Dinner is almost ready. Okay. Izuku nodded, while Katsuki had an annoyed look. Once the woman left to go back inside the building on the edge of the field where their apartment was, Katsuki plopped to his back on the ground. This sucks. We don't get to go on awesome adventures. The blonde boy grumbled. This is nice too, Izuku said as he sat down in the grass also to look at the sky. Yeah, but you always do this and it is not exactly the most thrilling thing in the world. Katsuki had a bored tone, not knowing what his brother liked about the sky so much. I like it, Izuku said, not knowing how to exactly word how he just loved the sky and the feeling of the wind. When we get magic we are definitely going on adventures, the blonde stated. Cool ones like heroes might go on. Izuku nodded, wondering about if it was even possible for them to get magic. Mitsuki kept looking out the window overlooking the field while setting out the food for dinner, something her husband noticed. Mitsuki, they're fine. I think Katsuki wouldn't lead them into the woods right after you told them no. The man wasn't surprised his wife was worrying a lot. She was always overly cautious about anything that had to do with their adopted son. I know, the blonde woman sighed, knowing she was just being a tad paranoid. I have a new book that can distract Katsuki for a bit if you would like. It's about magic, isn't it? The woman asked with a flat tone. It's the most effective at having him sit down and not try to get him and Izuku into trouble. Masaru brought a book into the kitchen. History of Magic. Mitsuki read the title unconvincingly. You know Katsuki wants something that just says how to get magic now. History is what would keep Izuku occupied and he doesn't cause trouble. She said that despite knowing Izuku causes her more stress than Katsuki at this point, she just worried too much about him and his lack of a quirk or even any mana at all. She was already sure that sadly her son Katsuki wouldn't get magic either since he seemingly has no mana at all as well, and her and Masaru's families didn't have any recorded members with any notable magic. She was just worried that Izuku would just gain nothing and be fragile, something in her mind she wasn't aware she viewed him as ever since she found him as a baby. It can be a gift for Izuku then. It would keep the little gremlin off his brother's back about adventures for a bit. Mitsuki nodded. They should be coming back up in a minute. Not that long after the two boys did come back up to the apartment, Katsuki running up while Izuku walked. Mom, we're back, Katsuki announced for the two. Wash your hands before you come eat, their mother ordered. A minute later the two boys had washed their hands and were at the table with their parents. Katsuki talking about the stuff he did at school with his friends while Izuku was silent. Not really having friends since he never really talked much. After a while Masaru held up the book he had gotten. Would you boys like a new book about magic? Yes, Katsuki immediately forgot what he was telling his mother and tried to get the book. Yes, please, Izuku said much quieter, Masaru handing him the book instead of Katsuki since he was closer. Give the details. Anything that is neat, Katsuki requested. Not really upset over his brother getting the book, Izuku skipped past the beginning parts of the book, having read multiple times about the history of magic royalty of Japan, a group that had the largest amount of magic of any people in the country, which was originally the capital region of the 5 great magic kingdoms centuries ago. The book was fairly recently made as it actually covered events from the main royal family being murdered fairly recently, just almost 10 years earlier. and how the murderers were not found, at least when this boom was made. Izuku, when we get magic we got to become magic knights. Katsuki got his brother's attention while waiting for anything interesting to be shared. I thought you wanted to be a pro hero. Izuku looked at his friend. Yeah, but the magic knights are also pro heroes too. Like best genist. Gotta not yell off everything while a magic knight. Mitsuki teased her son. I don't yell everything. The blonde boy didn't notice the irony in his response. There are usually never more than 10 magic knights in Japan. Izuku said as he read it in the book. Any others are junior mages who work under the actual magic knights. Yep, and we are gonna be 2 of them. What if our magic isn't strong enough? The blonde gained a look like Izuku was dumb for saying that. It's us. No way will we not be strong. In all honesty, Katsuki didn't like how Izuku so far didn't seem to have any aspirations like him. Katsuki wanted to be one of the best heroes, but Izuku just was there. He was kind of boring, to be honest, which is why Katsuki made it his mission to get the other boy to be his sidekick or something so that he could get him to actually do something exciting. Katsuki honestly thinks it's their mother's fault because she was way too overbearing and watchful of Izuku. He just never really got to do stuff. Katsuki never really knew why their mom treated Izuku so differently, but guessed it was because, unlike Katsuki, Izuku was an odd in the family. He looked like he wasn't related to them and had no quirk either. It probably made Izuku self-conscious, and their mom knew that. Plus, Izuku did tend to get sick frequently, whereas Katsuki was probably only sick once in his life. At least Izuku was interested in magic, so he wasn't completely boring or even as upset about his quirklessness. Only 10% of people get magic usually. Izuku recited facts from the book. And 40% of the 10 have magic on the level of the magic knights. What about the spirits? Katsuki remembered hearing a teacher bring up those that day in school. What does it say about those things? Izuku flipped through the book to find the spirits. Magic spirits, he remembered hearing about them too, but not much was actually said. Yeah, those things. Magic spirits are elemental spirits of the 4 basic magic classes: water, fire, earth, and wind. The spirits possess spirit magic, which is a rare form of magic that allows the user to summon the magic spirit of the magic attribute that both the spirit and mage share. So just gods then? Katsuki asked. How strong are they? Izuku looked back at the book to read more. Each spirit possesses immense magic power and can increase their master's own magic power and spells. Being chosen by a spirit is considered divine protection and proof of strength. Well, I decided I am gonna get one, Katsuki declared. When I get my magic, it is gonna be so cool that the spirits will fight over who gets me. I don't think any of them would want a loudmouthed kid, Mitsuki said with a smirk, Katsuki gaining an annoyed expression. The spirits all have different magic attributes and only pick someone with the same attribute as them, Izuku pointed out. TSSH, I guess. Who has the spirits now? The book doesn't say. I don't think it would even be the same anyways because it can be changed. Especially when I get one. Mom, do you know who has them? The blonde asked. Mitsuki poked her lip as she thought. The magic spirits, as far as I know, those things haven't been around for a while. Actually the water spirit I believe has someone they serve, like a contract with a family or something. Who? Katsuki asked almost impatiently. Their mother shrugged. I don't know. Some kid. I didn't pay attention to what her name was because it was on the news while I was on a date with your father. All people with magic have grimoires. Izuku started reading more of it, too engrossed in the book to really stop for the back and forth of his brother and mother. A grimoire is a book that allows its user to cast specific spells that are vastly powerful in comparison with their own natural magical abilities without it. I know that part, Katsuki stated. The good stuff is what I want to know. Just let him read, Mitsuki said flatly. Izuku continued. Grimoires all have a 3-leaf clover on the covers. The leaves of the clover are said to each symbolize certain virtues: faith, hope, and love. It is also possible to get a 4-leaf clover on your grimoire in very rare occasions. Only a few people ever get one. The rare 4th leaf represents good luck. There is a fable myth about a 5th leaf clover which is said to represent the devil. How do we get a grimoire? Katsuki looked at his mother, hoping she would have a good answer. Mitsuki didn't know why she was surprised. He kept asking more questions over and over. Grimoires only appear when you gain the ability to use her magic. It's like poof, just appears right in front of you. The book also kind of releases a bit of magic as it pops up apparently. So you gotta wait till it decides to pop up. I don't want to wait though, Katsuki grumbled. Be happy you have a quirk at least. It did annoy Mitsuki a bit that Katsuki kept going in about wanting magic when he already has a power, his quirk, and Izuku looked like he wouldn't get one at all. Especially those sparkler hands of yours. Their explosions. The blonde boy got offended by his quirk being called sparkler hands, and used his quirk to set off small explosions in his palms. So stop wanting more if you have the ability to use your hands like bombs. Izuku looked at the book again. Does magic tend to have to do with your quirk? Not all the time. A friend at work has a quirk with the ability to extend her arms like the rubber guy from those comics Katsuki likes. But her magic is called stone magic. Sometimes they are similar but sometimes they aren't. It's not always connected. I want fire magic, Katsuki unsurprisingly said. That with my explosions would be awesome. He turned to Izuku. What magic do you want? The emerald boy was quiet for a second while he thought. If he had to think about it, something to do with the sky would be nice. I would like something about the sky. Mitsuki actually stopped for a second because she remembered how Izuku first appeared in front of her, carried on a wind spell. Tornado magic. Katsuki jumped to something specific. Or lightning. I don't think he meant electricity, their mother said flatly to the blonde. She wasn't surprised Izuku would want something related to the sky either. He spent half of his time just looking at it. She really just hoped he somehow got magic despite his lack of any substantial mana. Izuku went back to looking through the book while Katsuki began to list off every kind of magic he could think up that had remotely anything to do with the sky. The next day Mitsuki was hugging both of her kids before they would leave for school. Have a good day at school, you two, she started. Katsuki, please don't start getting riled up so the teachers can just teach. I just had questions, geez. Katsuki had an annoyed look, having gotten the teachers annoyed with him enough times to require someone else's hands to count the times. And all he was doing was just asking more questions. Magic isn't the only thing they are supposed to teach you about, Mitsuki said flatly. The extra magic stuff is for kids who have magic. I have magic. Kids who show magic. The woman rephrased. She turned to Izuku and made sure his jacket was okay. It's starting to rain harder, making her worried the two would get sick, especially Izuku, who wasn't as perfectly healthy as Katsuki, who had only once gotten sick. The emerald boy seemed to get sick at least once every few weeks, and the doctors said it might have to do with his lack of mana. Make sure to check both ways before crossing the street. Don't talk to strangers and be careful, you two. Izuku nodded, while Katsuki started to look impatient. Can we go now, Mom? Raiga said he was going to bring his new cards to school. And he said he got a shiny Charizard. Katsuki wanted to see if his friend was just full of it. Don't run to school and ditch Izuku, Mitsuki made sure to say. Akahe. The blonde groaned, not planning on ditching his quiet brother anyways. He grabbed the door and began to leave. Let's go, Izuku. Bye. Izuku did a small wave to his parents as he began to follow his brother. Once the door was closed, Mitsuki sighed and Masaru put a hand on her shoulder. Katsuki has way too much energy, the woman stated. He is like his mother. I can rein it in though. He only barely stops because he waits for Izuku to catch up. School that day went by just the same as usual for the most part. The two arriving at the school where Katsuki and some of the others would all begin talking about their quirks, some pro hero they saw on TV or comics they read. Katsuki was surprised that Raiga had the rare card he claimed to have as well. Izuku did what he normally does on rainy days and just stared out a window until class started. The first change that actually caught the two off guard was near the end of the school day, the rain still going hard, when someone asked the two a question while Bakugo was talking, although ranting almost fit just as well, to Izuku about magic again. How come Izuku doesn't have your last name? Bakugo Raiga, a blue-haired boy with pure blue eyes and gills, asked. Wait, he doesn't? A girl asked. I thought all siblings had the same name. I don't have the same name as my step-brother, another girl asked. But Bakugo and Izuku are actual brothers, Raiga said, before looking at the two in confusion. Right. Izuku and Bakugo both looked confused for a moment at the question, it being the first time they actually focused on the fact that Izuku actually didn't have a surname at all, despite definitely being Katsuki's brother. But why don't you? Katsuki looked at his emerald brother, who didn't actually have an answer. Maybe he's adopted, the first girl offered. He'd still get the last name then, dummy. The second girl responded. You're the dummy, the first girl retorted. It's just weird Izuku doesn't have a last name, Raiga said, although if the blue-haired kid was honest he just thought Izuku was weird in general. The emerald kid was the opposite of his brother, and it did seem hard to believe they were brothers, especially when he has seen their parents, and Izuku had like no similarities past their father being somewhat quiet like him. In fact, if it wasn't for everyone hearing from the two that they were brothers, it was likely no one would believe they were related. Why don't I? Izuku looked at his brother in confusion. The blonde didn't have an answer and just looked down while trying to guess why Izuku and him didn't have the same name. They were brothers, so they should have the same last name. Right. The rain had surprisingly stopped completely in the little time before school was over. The two boys were quiet as they began to walk home, both of them thinking of why Izuku doesn't have what should be his last name. They didn't get far from the school before Raiga and some of Bakugo's friends showed up, running behind them. Bakugo, Raiga yelled as he caught up to the blonde. Chihiro says that the arcade now has the new Street Fighter. Katsuki completely forgot about his previous train of thought. Really? Yay, Chihiro. A black-haired boy with yellow eyes exclaimed excitedly. Let's go, Raiga added enthusiastically. Katsuki immediately began to go with the group of boys before he turned to his brother, just remembering that he was supposed to make sure his brother got home. He then wondered for a second why Izuku was always having to be watched over again. Did their mom really think Izuku was too weak or something? Katsuki did admit his brother wasn't as strong as him when it came to just about everything really. But he was 10, so Izuku should be able to know the path home. They took home every day. That or just come to the arcade. He was about to say Izuku can come, but the boy was already walking home, so he turned to follow Raiga and the others. Izuku had not actually noticed the encounter at all, too lost in thought about his family, wondering if he was in fact biologically part of the family. A man made of sludge ran out of a bank with a bag and kept running, a book with a sickly green glow floating beside him the whole time as he ran. "Stop thief!" A security guard with a severe wound on his right arm called out as he weakly by as quickly as he could tried to give chase. He shouted to get more attention. "Watch out, he is using magic." The thieving man of sludge didn't stop at all as he used a blank spell of simple magic to knock people out of his way. Izuku stopped partway down the street when he noticed it was quiet. Not hearing his brother's usual loud voice, he looked around and saw no trace of his brother. Katsuki, the emerald-haired boy, said to nothing but the wind before turning around back the way he had come to find his brother. Katsuki and the boys were walking to the arcade when Chihiro spoke. "So do you guys think one of us will get magic?" the boy asked. "TFFT, I know I will get magic," Katsuki said confidently. "Don't you have no mana?" Raiga asked. "Shut up," the blonde responded. "It's just hidden. My magic is just waiting till a cool moment, I guess. Let's cut through that alley, guys," a fourth boy said as he pointed to an alley that they knew would get them to the arcade faster, the boys all agreeing with a nod as they walked. "Wait, what's the difference between magic and mana?" Chihiro asked in confusion. "Mana is magic energy stuff. Magic is the stuff we do with the mana," Katsuki answered without hesitation. "Nerd." Raiga. "Shut up," Katsuki retorted. "I just plan on knowing everything I can so that when I gain my magic I will be awesome just like how I am with my quirk." He let an explosion pop in his palm as emphasis. "A cloak with a good quirk," a menacing voice said that made the kids turn around to see a man made of olive green colored sludge, who was eyeing Katsuki. "I need to hide from him, so you will do." All of the boys felt fear as the sludge villain rushed at them. Izuku wandered around for a few minutes before thinking that his brother might have actually gone home, so he began to head in that direction before he walked right past a commotion. People gathered around an entrance to an alley, with the sounds of explosions and conflict happening in it. Out of curiosity, the boy went to the crowd and moved through it, his skinnier frame allowing him to slip through it easily. He got to the front of and was able to see what was happening, and wished he didn't. A villain had his brother. The villain made out of sludge was trying to force his way into Katsuki, trying to possess the boy's body to use as a mask. Heroes weren't even able to help, the sludge villain having made use of his magic with magic bullets to keep people away, while the few heroes there were forced to only watch and make sure no bystanders were hurt. "Stop struggling, boy," the sludge villain growled as Katsuki fight as hard as he could, struggling and letting off explosions with his one free hand to try and get free. Izuku saw the look of fear on his brother's face, and the frail boy was instantly over the barrier, keeping the crowd back and running towards his brother. "Boy, stop!" a hero known as Death Arms shouted as the emerald boy didn't stop. The sludge villain didn't even attack the boy at first, actually pausing as the frail-looking boy ran at him. "Get away from my brother!" Izuku yelled as he got close to the villain and punched it as hard as he could. Not doing anything since the villain was a liquid. Izuku went with trying to pull his brother away, grabbing him by his free arm and pulling. Katsuki panicked as he registered the fact in his head that his brother was there. The sludge villain shook out of his confusion before laughing. "What do you think you are doing, brat?" He used a tendril of sludge to swing into Izuku's side and send the boy to the side. Katsuki got mad as he struggled harder. "Run, Izuku, you idiot!" He didn't want his brother to get hurt. Izuku struggled to get up, before glaring at the villain and running at him again. The sludge villain felt like not wasting time on this kid, and his grimoire began to fly to an open page of a spell he was about to use on the brat. Sludge magic, binding sludge swamp. The area around Izuku got covered in sludge as multiple tendrils shot up and wrapped around him, pinning his arms to his sides and ruining any chance of him doing anything. The sludge villain laughed as he looked at the captured boy. "You don't even have any mana to steal either." He only knew that because of his sludge magic's ability to drain magic and mana from things it touches. "That just makes the effect of my magic draining yours be useless. At least serve a purpose, you worm." He needed as much magic as he could get before that guy showed up. He scowled and made his sludge tendrils throw Izuku to the side, slamming the boy into a wall. He didn't have time to waste on something useless. Mitsuki looked at the clock again, feeling worried over her kids not being home yet. Masaru noticed it and put a hand on hers. "It's fine. Katsuki probably just took the two of them to the arcade or the library to get more books on magic. I'm still worried. I have a feeling something is happening." The man gave a reassuring look. "Katsuki will look after his brother." He didn't see her worry lessen, so the man stood up. "I can go get them." Mitsuki still couldn't shake her bad feeling. Katsuki got pissed off at seeing his brother be thrown, forcing more explosions off. He struggled harder. "You bastard. Quit struggling, brat," the sludge villain scowled. Everything got quiet as suddenly a loud humming sound was heard, making everyone look in the direction of Izuku. The Emerald Boy was struggling to get up, but that wasn't the shocking thing. It was the array of runes of a bright green sealing spell on him that were being burned off. The humming sound got louder before the arrays all over the boy, which had hidden something inside the boy, shattered like glass and fell off of the boy, disappearing before any of it hit the ground. Not even a split second later, a wave of energy came off of the boy and began to make the wind whip around him. The Emerald Boy, who had seemingly had no mana at all, actually had a hidden and shockingly overwhelming amount. Katsuki gained a wide look as he watched the wind whip around his brother in a quickly forming tornado, remembering what his mother said about magic. The book also kind of releases a little bit of magic as it pops up. That was about grimoires. Izuku was releasing such a huge amount without a book in sight. "What is this mana?" Death Arms gasped as he had to actually brace himself to not be thrown to the side from the sheer amount of mana going off like a whirlwind. Then a book flashed into existence with a bright green light right in front of Izuku. The grimoire had a light green verging on gold-colored cover, with intricate ornaments around the borders similar to vines and lines akin to rays of light coming off from the center of the cover, where the most shocking thing of all was. In the center of the cover was a gold-colored four-leaf clover. The magical book was glowing with a lime green energy of Izuku's mana. The sludge villain in pure shock at the boy. Not sure how in the hell he had this absurd of an amount of mana when he just had the boy in his clutches and felt nothing at all. And to top it off, the little bastard somehow had a four-leaf clover. Izuku didn't focus on his book or newfound magic as much as anyone else in that moment. His attention still on saving his brother. "Get away from my brother," the boy yelled as the grimoire opened and flew to a page. Words in writing only Izuku could understand, as the owner instantly writing themselves down as a spell was born in that moment. The sludge villain snapped to realizing he was now fighting this kid. Magic versus magic. Sludge magic. Toxic whip, he shouted a spell. Whips of sludge filled with his magic sprouting up and rushing at the Emerald Boy. Izuku said the words that filled his book and his mind. Wind magic. Tornado Fang. The wind that was previously a whirlwind around the boy quickly became a horizontal tornado that rushed at the sludge villain, cutting through every tendril of magic sludge as it crashed into the villain. The strong winds knocking apart the villain and throwing his liquid form all over the place. Katsuki used the chance to use his quirk to blast himself away to avoid any spells, getting out of the sludge villain's grip during the attack. The sludge magic user growled, "How is this even happening?" World Tree Magic. Binding Forest. A new voice was heard from above as tree branches suddenly sprouted up from seemingly half of the alley and grabbed all of the sludge villain that was broken up by Izuku and put the man into a hollow of wood with no escape. Everyone looked up to see a man standing on a tree branch, his grimoire open and floating next to him, showing he was the new magic user to enter the conflict. It was a man with wooden arms and legs, as well as a wooden mask. For clothing past that, he had a doubled and long-sleeved shirt with a high collar. The shirt itself consists of two different colors, white at the sides as well as the sleeves, and blue in the center, with gold trimmings and buttons can be seen on the blue portion of the front of the shirt. The shirt extended below his waist and he had a dark wooden belt on top of it, with an attachment that he kept his grimoire in when it wasn't in use. He also has white pants and a pair of high black boots. The man also had a robe, specifically a robe worn solely by magic knights to show their rank. The robe, which covered most of his torso, was a warm brown in color. It had a blue-colored fur trim around the border of the hood and a pair of red ropes, which come from the left shoulder and connect to the gold-colored button on the right shoulder. "Sorry it took me so long to stop his actions." The man apologized as he looked at Izuku and Katsuki, the branch he was on lowering him so he could stand next to the boys. "Are you okay?" He was in his hands. Izuku responded by referring to his brother. "You were thrown into a wall, stupid. Forget about me." Katsuki frowned. The man nodded. Recovery magic. Budding of Yggdrasil. Small branches wrapped off of seeds formed from the spell and began to wrap around the two boys, releasing mana that healed any injuries to the boys during the altercation. The man looked at Izuku and the book next to him. "May I ask if you were the source of that huge wave of mana, young man?" Katsuki then remembered that again. "Izuku, how did you get magic?" The emerald-haired boy looked confused for a second while keeping his gaze on the grimoire that was his. "I don't know." Kamui Woods, a civilian, interrupted from behind the barrier, keeping the civilians away from the alley. Katsuki then realized they were actually talking to one of the Magic Knights of Japan. He pointed at the man. "You're Kamui Woods, the pro hero and Magic Knight." The Magic Knight nodded. "I am Kamui," Death Arms said as he approached. "I take it that we can just pick up the wooden that villain is in and take him to jail." He pointed at the wooden cage containing the sludge villain. "Sorry, but criminals who use magic have to be taken care of by a Magic Knight." The man apologized. "I will take him in myself." "You're Kamui Woods," Katsuki repeated, still shocked at seeing one of the 8 Magic Knights of Japan. Kamui turned his focus back to Izuku. Interested in the boy he can sense the vast amount of mana from. The raw power of the boy had rivaled the trained power of the magic knights in his opinion. He looked at the grimoire still floating by the boy and gained a surprised look to see the fourth leaf, something no one had gained in a long time. "You are Izuku, correct?" The emerald boy nodded and Kamui continued. "If you work that magic, I believe one day you will have a robe like this of your own." He decided he would keep his eye on the boy with the huge amount of potential. "Why was there a seal on you, boy?" Death Arms asked. "Who was suppressing your magic?" "I don't know," Izuku answered. "Seal?" Kamui asked, not having been there for that part. The sludge creep grabbed Izuku with magic that absorbs other magic, and it broke that thing and Izuku's magic started going nuts, Katsuki explained. Kamui now had even more reason to be curious about the boy. "I don't know why I had a seal," Izuku restated as he looked at his grimoire, silently amazed at his four-leaf clover. "You both were brave and stood your ground. I think you both have potential to go far," Kamui stated. He truly thought they both had potential, one with his amazing magic, and the other with his powerful quirk. Izuku and Katsuki both beamed at the praise, especially praise from a magic knight of all people. "Yeah, you are gonna see us become top dogs," Katsuki boasted. "You two kids should get home now." This was enough excitement for anyone. Death Arms stated, "Yeah, let's go show mom and dad your grimoire." Katsuki focused on that now. He began to move quickly in the direction of home. "Let's go, Izuku." The emerald boy silently followed his brother, looking at his grimoire with fascination the whole time. Kamui looked in the boy's direction, seeing as the crowd all moved but stared in awe at the boy with the grimoire with a four-leaf clover. A four-leaf clover, they say anyone who gets one leaves a mark on history. "I wonder what your mark will be, Izuku." Partway home, Katsuki actually stopped and looked at the ground. "You got a grimoire, you had magic this whole time, but it was sealed off." He felt jealous of his brother as he then looked at the book his brother had. "The sludge creeps magic drains magic," and he said, "I had nothing." "Neither did you, but you had that seal that the guy broke. So I don't actually have a chance of gaining magic, do I?" The blonde sounded hurt slightly saying that. If it was there at all, he would have found any. "So I just don't have anything." He paused before realizing something else. "But you also have no quirk." "I do. I guess it's only fair. I know what I want to do now," Izuku stated. "What?" "I have my own goal now." The emerald boy, who previously never really had any real goals, finally had one. "I am going to become strong like you and become a magic knight and protect everyone." Katsuki gained a look of pride in his brother. "A magic knight, of course. With your magic you might as well be called a magic king." He paused again. "So I am obviously going to become the #1 hero and you are going to be the best magic knight. You're my rival then," Katsuki stated as he smirked. "I will also become #1. Only one of us can be #1, dingbat." Katsuki smiled. He raised his fist to his brother for a fist bump. "Don't make it easy for me, rival." The boy no longer thought at all about the question earlier that day about whether or not his brother was his real biological brother or not. To him, the magically blessed emerald boy was as much of a brother as can be. Izuku put his fist against his brother's. "It's on, rival."